Hello, everyone. Today we will talk about Ontario Express Entry Human Capital Priorities stream. This is one of my favorite streams, and the reason is many. One of them is that it's an express entry linked stream, so the processing times are much faster. Secondly, it caters to a lot of people who have experience either in STEM, health, and some other priority occupations, which they have started kind of recently. So before that, let me introduce myself. My name is Sandhu, and I'm a regulated Canadian immigration consultant based out of Ontario, Canada. And this whole presentation or information is only for informational purposes and should not be construed as legal advice or professional advice. If you want that, you can book a consultation with a licensed practitioner, an immigration consultant, or an immigration lawyer. Also, I would request you that you subscribe to the channel and get notified of any new videos I post, or you can also check previous videos, and it's tons of information which you might find useful. And if you want to book a one-on-one consultation, the information is also in the description. So without any further ado, so let me just go over it and use the uh, website itself as my resource, because that has the best information, right? So first, just a small thing that they have a stream selector tool, right? So you can use this tool to see if you can be eligible in any of the streams. So as I was mentioning, Ontario has the express entry expression of interest streams, which is like 5 of them. So 3 of them are employer job offer based, and 2 are, one is master's and one is PhD. And the express entry streams, there are 3 express entry streams currently. So we have human capital priority stream, we will discuss skilled trades stream, and French speaking skilled worker stream, right? Now let's look into the eligibility requirement for Ontario express entry human capital priority stream, right? So first thing you need to understand, this is the express entry link stream. So unless you have an express entry profile, right, and you at least met the requirements of either the federal skilled worker program or Canadian experience stars, so you're not even eligible for that. So let's get that out of the way. So that if you have that, you have met the requirements and you have a valid profile. So then let's talk about further. So then there are stream requirements, right? So first you need to have a work experience requirement. So now this stream is basically your work experience can be assessed either against the federal skilled worker program or the Canadian experience class. If it is assessed against the federal skilled worker program, their requirement is that you need to have 1 year of continuous full-time paid work experience in one NOC, which is in tier 0, 1, 2, 3 in the last 5 years, right? And that also the same primary occupation as you kind of identified in your express requirement, right? So this is if you want to qualify under the federal skilled worker program. So you need 1 year experience in the last 5 years, right? Now, the more interesting one is the Canadian experience class one. Because in this, if you are eligible for Canadian work experience, Canadian experience class, you do not need to have 1 year experience in the primary or the primary NOC, right? So even if you can demonstrate that out of the 1 year experience you use to qualify for the Canadian experience class, you have at least 6 months of that experience in your primary NOC, so that can get you the foot in the specific draw as well, right? Because the draw requires 2 criteria in the draw. First, they give a CRS range, which is comprehensive ranking score range. So they will have a range that from this score to this score. And then they also have a list of targeted occupations. Historically, they have been targeting only healthcare and STEM occupations, not STEM, sorry, IT occupations. But recently, one of the draw which came very recently, they had some other priority occupations as well, which were eligible. So this is a kind of a big shift which has happened, which has never happened before. I was kind of following their draws for a couple of months and even since last year. This is the first time ever they actually picked up some occupations, not some, actually quite a few occupations from other than the healthcare occupations and the IT occupations. So let's say you have met the requirement, and then you also need to meet the education requirements. You need to have a bachelor's or above, right? And if you've done it from outside Canada, you need an education credential assessment. The only exception is for these kind of occupations or NOC codes. You have nursing coordinators and supervisors, registered nurses, and registered psychiatric nurses, nurse practitioners, licensed practical nurses. They also sometimes call like RPNs, right? And the exception is that if they are already registered with the College of Nurses of Ontario in the journal extended or temporary class, then they do not need to meet the requirement of bachelor's, right? That's what it is. Now let's go further. Another thing is that you need to meet the language requirements of CLB7, either English or French. And these are the tests, which is IELTS General, self-pay, PT core, and TEF or TCL. And you need to meet the settlement funds requirement. So whatever the settlement funds are required, so you can meet in one of the two ways. Either you can show that you have those funds in, let's say, your bank account, investment savings, etc., or you can even show that from the annual earnings you have from the ongoing employment if you're already working in Ontario or a job offer in Ontario. So, or a combination of both. So there are many ways to show that. And then you have intention to live in Ontario. So this you can demonstrate if you have studied in Ontario, or if you have like extended family in Ontario, you applied for jobs in Ontario, you have visited. So any kind of connections that will be good enough for the immigration officer at OINP to convince that you have the intention to live in Ontario after you have granted permanent residence. And if you're legally living in Canada, I mean, if you're living in Canada, you need to have a legal status, right? So, and you need to have at least maintained status. Don't get out of status. And federal skilled worker program, that's kind of given, right? You can't have a profile any which ways if you do not meet the selection factor. So I don't even understand why this thing is there, because this is kind of redundant information. Okay, so now let's say you have met all the requirements. So what will happen is, let me see. So after, let's say you have met all the requirements. So what will happen is, this is a passive scheme. So when I say passive scheme, so this is a passive stream, I would say, not a scheme. So what I mean by that is that you don't have to do anything at all, in a way. So if you have express entry profile and Ontario thinks that you meet the requirements and for that specific draw which they conduct, they will automatically send you a notification of interest. When send you a notification of interest, you will have 45 days to submit your application, right? And make sure you maintain express entry profile during the period. And if there are any changes, anything happening, do keep Ontario OINP updated, because that's going to create problems for you if you try to hide stuff. Now, yeah, so this is kind of the document checklist. I don't want to go into that in detail, but one of the things is that you definitely need to have the applicant consent form. Has to be completed, signed, and uploaded. So do it properly, because a lot of people mess this thing up, right? And then there's some other requirements, right? So when you're going to be submitting your application, automatically it will kind of generate a checklist, but the checklist is also provided here. So photograph, passport, status, education documents, language test scores, and work experience documents, right? So all of those information you have to kind of provide in order to complete the full application. And you can look into this, and right, so that's what it is. Now, let's look at some of the previous draws which has happened and what were the scores, right? So if you see here, there are a couple of draws which has happened this year. So we have a February draw, 2 February draw, then March. So let me just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 draws have happened, which is pretty good actually. Now for the next year, you know, we have the immigration level plan already out. I think they will not be able to conduct so many draws next year because the quota won't get reduced. We do not know how much that quota would be, but it's likely it's going to reduce. If you see, these are the score rates, right? So this draw is definitely a health draw. So this is an IT draw, health draw, IT draw, health draw, sorry, IT draw, or sorry, health draw, yeah. And so when I say health draw, so what I mean by that is, so only certain occupations in the healthcare were eligible. And when there's IT draw, so certain occupations in the IT, like software engineers, you know, those kind of occupations were invited. And this is the only draw which has happened, which is other priority occupation. I can actually show you what are these draws for. Okay. So now if you go here and if I see September 19th is when this other priority occupation draw, which happened for the first time I ever saw it, right? So if I go here, let me just go below. So if you see here, the score was 505 to 528, which is anyway very, very high. But if you see here, they pretty much invited so many occupations in this specific draw, right? And you can see if your occupation is one of them. So you have a kind of a non-zero chance of getting invited at some point in the future as well, if such kind of draws continue. And then if you see, okay, so let's go further. Yeah, so if you look at the health draw, the health draw scores are much lower, right? So it's 414 to 444. And these scores can obviously fluctuate. So generally what Ontario does is that they conduct the draw in tandem with the express entry draw. So if the express entry health draw was at 445, so the highest score they will keep for this score is going to be 444. So if, let's say hypothetically, next health draw from express entry comes, let's say at 451. So Ontario would, if it's going to conduct a draw in health, so they will do it from 450 and backwards. So that's how they generally conduct the draw. And if you see in healthcare occupations, there are tons of occupations here as well. And then you have a lot of IT occupations as well, but not as much as like the health occupation ones. So they also conducted some other health occupations. Again, priorities occupations. So let's go down. I just want to show you one of the IT occupation one. So let's see that. So let's say, okay, so let's say one of the tech, maybe I missed some, but let's look at the tech occupation, right? So these are the occupations which were invited previously. So having said that, so you should always take it with a pinch of salt. So because we do not know how these draws pan out, and obviously based on the changes which has happened recently, where the quota for the PNP for 2024 was 110,000 permanent residents, it has been cut to 55,000 for the next year in 2025. So it will have an impact, but still for people who understand or health, so this is another one of the options which makes sense. So the processing time for this kind of application, they say it's 60 to 90 days. What I've seen is sometimes takes longer. But nonetheless, this is the official processing times. And another thing, what will happen is, let's just quickly go over the whole process. So let's say you have an express entry profile, they conduct a draw, you're invited, within 45 days, you submit your application, pay the fee. I think it's $1,500 currently. So you pay the fee, and then the processing starts. So when the processing ends, you will get basically a nomination, right? And you will have to accept the nomination within 30 days. When you accept the nomination in your express entry profile, they will add additional 600 points for the additional factors, right? So the total point you'll get is 600 plus whatever you previously had, maybe slightly less than that because there's a little bit of an overlap. But nonetheless, so you will have much higher score as compared to what you had previously. So anytime there's a general draw or a specific PNP draw, and PNP draws are happening pretty much regularly. So if I look at all the previous draws, say express entry round of invitations, then I look at all the previous draws, right? And yeah, so if you see here, PNP draws are happening quite regularly. 791 was the score, 7.3. It's kind of happening very, very regularly. I think bi-weekly. Yeah, so if you see here, October has 2, September has 1, August has 2, July had 3, June had 1, May had 1 as well. So they're having happening quite regularly. And even if there's any other general draw, you will get invited, or if there's playing space class draw, then also you will get invited, right? If you are under the playing space. So that's kind of pretty much it. So I wish you all the best. And if you want to know what is the best way, what are the options, and you want to strategize about getting PR in Canada, you can always reach out to me, and maybe book a consultation and we can discuss it. So the information is in the description. And again, a small reminder, please do like and subscribe to the channel. That means a lot to me. Thank you so much and wish you all the very best.